Welcome to Roots and Roofs, where we explore the intersection of motherhood and entrepreneurship in the real estate world. I am your host, Mackenzie Shelton. Join us as we dive into the unique journey of balancing family life with owning a thriving real estate business. Each episode, we will uncover inspiring stories, practical tips, mindset conversations, and expert insights from others who are carving their paths in the real estate industry. Whether you are a seasoned realtor, a prospective buyer, or simply curious about the dynamics of managing both home and career, Roots and Roofs is your go-to podcast for heartfelt discussions and invaluable advice. Tune in and discover how these incredible women are building deep roots from the ground up while nurturing their families under the same roof. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Roots and Roofs. I have a very exciting guest with me here today. Katie, why don't you just take a moment to introduce yourself to everyone?
Oh my gosh. So I am a national title agent, business development manager is the official title, but essentially I help real estate agents and lenders, investors close transactions nationwide from a title and escrow perspective. And I have been fortunate enough to also be the vendor partner for the Moms in Real Estate group, since that is kind of like my niche that I love working with so much. So that's who I am in like a 10-second nutshell.
And you are a mom, correct?
I am. I have a 6-year-old that is all things baseball right now in two different leagues, and we are up to our eyeballs in baseball, but I love it. And then I also have my boyfriend's son who is 23 and has his girlfriend and his own thing going on, who I also love and adore. So, yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Great. So let's kind of talk about like how you ended up where you ended up. So it sounds like there might have been a season of burnout in there, which is funny because I talk a lot about that. So let's kind of talk a little bit about like how did you get from being just so overwhelmed and stressed out and all the crazy things to like where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, real estate is such a crazy thing. I feel like a lot of people just kind of fall into real estate, or it's become so popular now and like kind of glamorized. So now people get into it, later on in life after seeing, TV shows or whatever else out there. But I was kind of similar out of college. Someone offered me a job as a lender, which I had zero knowledge of, was not even on my radar. But I was coming out of college. I obviously needed something to do. And so I started on that side of the business, and I actually fell in love with it. I I don't have anyone in my family that was part of real estate, so the whole world was very new to me. But I just loved it. And uh, I was on the number side of things back then, obviously, and I'm not really the numbers girly. So um, eventually I was offered a role with my title contact at the time, to come on the title side of the business. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot. And then I really fell in love with it. But that being said, real estate, I mean, there's the highs and the lows, and not everyone in this industry is has the best intentions. And so there was a lot of like finding the people that make me feel good and appreciate what I do. And that was what was causing the burnout, essentially. I was doing, all the things that they tell you to do, go to all the events, cold call, all these things that just didn't feel authentic or genuine to me. And when you're doing things that don't feel good to you, you burn out. I mean, you hate what you're doing and you don't get to appreciate the parts of it that you love. And I was just at the point where I was like, maybe real estate is not for me because this just does not feel good. And I just at that point I was like, you know what, I have nothing to lose. So I started firing clients that did not make me feel good to work with, which was scary because I was still at that point where I didn't necessarily feel like I was at the point to be firing clients. But I was like, again, it's either this or I'm finding something else entirely. So I took that step, and then I kind of fell into it just kind of forced me into working more with the people that make me feel good, which is really primarily women in real estate and specifically moms in real estate. So that has kind of been my huge focus. And after I got to that point, it's crazy. You hear it all the time and it sounds so cheesy until it happens to you. But that's when your business explodes, when you make room for the people that make you feel good. And then I don't know, maybe it's just you're pouring more energy and it just naturally flows and grows for you. So that's kind of what happened to me.
You want to know what? It's it's so funny that this has been kind of your journey because to be honest, this has also been my journey as well. And
Yeah,
the more like honestly, like the more specialized you get in what you are doing, and stop trying to serve every person just because they're a person, um,
right.
you just end up in a lot better situation altogether, you know?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah, absolutely. You know, it's funny. I've even had to help some of my team members on my team, kind of come to this realization of like, hey, if you say yes to this, you are saying no to something else. Even if you don't know what that other thing is, you are saying
exactly.
no to it. You are
Right.
potentially missing out on a different client, a different opportunity, so yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It can feel backwards because I feel like you have to take that step before it feels like you're there, but that's what opens up the door for the right things. So it feels a little backwards in the moment, but then it just like propels you forward in the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's kind of elaborate a little bit on your network in moms in real estate, because I think that it is really easy for us to say, oh, we only need to work with people locally, to where we are or whatever the case is. So maybe just kind of elaborate on like how did you end up, in that network, and what does it look like for someone who might want to work with you but lives, in a completely different state? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's getting people are opening up their minds to it a little bit more as of recently. I feel like some of the big cloud brokerages are helping with that, like Real and EXP and things. But we have been doing it on a national scale for as long as I can remember. I've been in the business since 2011. And so to me, I'm so accustomed to it. I don't know any other way. But it is different for people that aren't used to working with someone that's, in their backyard. So my company has a platform where we're able to work and function and licensed in the majority of the states across the country. We have a national platform where we connect with notaries that are local to you that will physically go and close the transaction for you. But we just have it on a national scale. And obviously, with the technology being the way it is now, we can kind of bridge the gap with anything that way, in terms of me building relationships and things like that. I'm fortunate now that I have things like this where I can build the relationship this way, even if I'm not in your backyard. And so that's what led to the moms in real estate. They needed a title vendor to just kind of, help bridge that gap for anyone that might have questions, even if they're not working with me directly, just a space where they can ask the question and get help. And so, because I'm able to essentially cover the entire country, it was the perfect fit for me to be able to fill that gap. And it's also, like I said, the group that I love working with the most. So it was just the perfect fit. Um, but it's a really easy process. Once you go through it once, I think everybody's like, "Oh God, that was so easy." But all the normal things happen. You send the contract to me. I assign it to an escrow officer who's like your primary point of contact to get you from A to B, and that's the person that you work with every single time. So you build that relationship, and to the point where you kind of know what each other needs before you even have to say it, which is, the most ideal scenario. And then we have a text messaging platform that sends out updates all along the way, so there's no guessing or wondering where you are in the process. And then, of course, I'm always just a call and email away if anyone has questions too. So I make it a point to be readily available to my clients, as much as I possibly can. Aside from like the hour where I'm doing things like this, you'll get a response from me right away. So that's what I've like built my business on. So,
Absolutely. Well, that's awesome. So, since a lot of my listeners are in the Midwest,
mhm.
do you cover Nebraska and Iowa and some of the surrounding states?
Yep, we do. So again, same process. We would just, for the EMD, it's a little different. They can, of course, wire their funds to us. We can email them a FedEx label if they want to send in a check, kind of the old school way. And then we just have an app where they can take a picture of the front and the back of their check and it uploads directly to our escrow account instantly. So it's so easy. They don't need to leave their house. They can do it right from their kitchen table. And same goes for funding the transaction same day. The seller just wires or I'm sorry, the buyer wires their funds into us and we fund the transaction same day. So super easy.
Wow. The taking the picture of the check is pretty cool. That's neat. I've
Yes,
never
yes,
heard
yes,
of that
yes.
before.
Yeah, it's so easy. It makes it, I mean, people are always like, well, you're not local to me, so does my buyer have to drive the check somewhere? And I'm like, absolutely not. There will be none of that. So,
I I do appreciate that a lot of title companies are starting to move more towards technology based and things like that. So that actually leads me to a question. Are you guys doing anything to integrate with AI or anything like that yet?
yeah, we just had we took a day. It was a day that normally we would have been open, but it was kind of a business holiday for banks. So we took that day and we made it a holiday for ourselves. We were off to clients, but we had an all day session on AI. So yes, our team is very much so leveraging it as much as possible. It just helps us obviously be more efficient. So but the team's been doing great with it. I've been using it for a while now, specifically like ChatGPT and Claude, those type of things have been huge for me. But getting like the processors and escrow officers where it feels a little less obvious to get acclimated with it was definitely a priority of ours. So that day was super helpful.
Awesome. Awesome. That's great. I actually just got back from a conference in New York City where we had one of the speakers was, basically kind of an AI guru. And it was very interesting to hear him talk about how, like, whether you whether you kind of want it to be here or not, like you really do have to embrace it. It's kind of like when the internet became a thing, right? Like
Yes,
the people that chose not to embrace it kind of got left behind. And so it's like
yes.
we have to take the opportunity to embrace things like this and utilize them to the best of our ability because otherwise we may be out of a job. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I've started to hear rumblings of clients, like buyers and seller clients, chat GBTing everything in terms of like how much should I list my house for? And so you have to be prepared for those conversations. So if you're not using them to know, at least be acclimated with what they could be experiencing on their side, you're already at a disadvantage. So,
Yep, absolutely. Agreed. Okay, so let's kind of shift directions here and talk a little bit about motherhood. So, what do you think have been maybe like one of your biggest challenges, like trying to grow your career and also be a mom and do all of the mom things all the time?
yeah, I mean, I don't know that anyone has it down to a science. I feel like it is like a constant work in progress, and you just, at least for me, I take it day by day. I'm very fortunate that I have a boyfriend that is super helpful, and he gets done work much earlier than I do, so he's able to kind of help out with the hours that I'm still working, like 3 to 5. Um, But even outside of those hours, in real estate, you're never technically off. Even when you're on vacation, like I joke and I just did it to myself because I have a little trip coming up. But if you ever get slow, just go on vacation because your business will explode. And so that has now happened to me at the end of this month. But I'm fortunate that way. And I do try and like once 5 o'clock hits, I'm very cognizant about how much time I'm spending with work. Like if it's not a true emergency, if it's not just like a quick answer to a text that isn't fully taking me away from being present with them, then I really do try and table it for the next day. And honestly, I'm fortunate on this side of the business too, because 9 times out of 10, you don't have an emergency that your title agent needs to solve past 5 p.m. You're not closing, you're not funding past that point, you're beyond wire cutoff. So the emergencies are fewer and farther between on my side. So I do think I get a little bit of a break compared to my poor agents and lenders on your side. But I mean, I really think it's just being cognizant about your time, what is a true emergency, and being okay with setting boundaries that your clients are ultimately going to respect, or they're not your client. They're not the person that you want to work with anyway. So, again, it kind of all comes down to like finding your right people that make you feel good. And if you're working with someone that isn't understanding to that, um, within reason, obviously, like I don't mean go, 6 hours without responding if they, reached out to you at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That's not what I'm saying by any means. But if they're texting you at 7 p.m. for something that isn't urgent, it can wait till the morning and it's going to be okay. So,
Yes, yes, I know. It unfortunately, somehow along the way, like there became this weird, I don't know, practice, especially with real estate agents, that like we kind of have to be on all of the time. I think it's, the invention of cell phones and the internet and,
yes,
obviously being able to DocuSign or dot loop things, and all this stuff. It just became like where we have to be on all of the time. And it's like we actually don't have to. We
right,
can we can wait to respond to things. To your point, almost nothing is an actual emergency.
right,
It does happen on occasion where it's like, okay, no, actually we have to like pretty much deal with this right now. But it's so
right.
rare. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And to your point, like if you are doing things like that, all you're doing is taking away from your family time, your time with your spouse, time to decompress and unwind so that you can be refreshed and ready for the next day and all of the problems that will exist and all of those things. So,
right.
yeah,
It all
absolutely.
ties into that burnout, and you can only sustain that for so long before it's going to break you for the people that wouldn't have done that to you in the first place. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, okay, one last question for you before we go here.
mhm.
So if you could give one piece of advice to a young mom who is trying to get her career off the ground, whether that is in the real estate space or otherwise, like what would be your one piece of advice to give to them?
I mean, I would say the bittersweet part about real estate is that there's no one way to do it and be successful. The hard part, or the challenging and overwhelming part of that, is that there are so many ways to be successful in it that it can be overwhelming. So I would say really hone in on what makes you feel good, what comes naturally to you, what are your strengths, and go all in on those. So if you are someone that is great at sales and you can, sell ice to an Eskimo, then maybe numbers is your game, and cold calling and, reaching out to FISBOs and things like that is going to be where you just thrive. But maybe that is your worst nightmare, and you are much more of the like face-to-face community builder kind of thing than maybe finding like YouTube videos or things on how to build community on Facebook and then build events from that community. And maybe that is your space. So my piece of advice would be really focus on and think about what feels good to you, what is not going to feel like work and what's going to feel more natural and organic for you, and just go all in on that because it can be overwhelming. There's so many ways to be successful. So don't just hone in on you see this one agent that's, closing 100 transactions a year, so you go after that. And then that is something that is completely opposite to what feels natural for you because it's never going to work. So that would be my
Oh,
advice.
you want to know what? That is so good and so true. I literally just met with a real estate agent yesterday who just recently got her license, and she was like, I just feel like I'm over here and now I'm over here and I'm just trying to do everything to see what sticks against the wall. And it's like, okay, there might actually like maybe I can help you find a better way to do this, because
Yeah,
I
yeah,
I do think so many people fall into that trap of not maybe just taking the time to slow down and reflect on what do they actually even like to do. Because
right.
to your point, to your earlier point, like that's when burnout happens. So yeah,
Exactly, exactly. That was kind of
absolutely.
why the podcast started, like to have all different kind of agents on the podcast that can speak to what's working for them so that those newer agents or maybe the agents that are just trying to still figure out what works for them can hear everyone's stories and take what they want away from that and find what works for them. So,
Yes, absolutely. Well, we will make sure to put your podcast in the show notes so that if anyone wants to listen along, they can. Um, and thank you so much for coming on today and just kind of sharing a little bit about your story and the things that you have found, other people have success with. So thank you so much, Katie. I really appreciate it.
thank you for having me. It was such a good time. I appreciate it, Mackenzie. And thank you for being on mine. You will be out on mine very soon.
Yay! I'm so excited.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to Roots and Roofs podcast today. If you loved today's episode, please let me know. I love hearing from you on Instagram and Facebook, so feel free to send me a DM or tag me in your stories so I can share it too. If you're looking for more information about today's topic, please visit my website, mahoganyacres.com, and all of the information that is listed in the show notes below. Until next time.